is there something wrong with me if partway through sex I start having doubts and concerns, and even though my body's really enjoying it, part of me feels scared or nervous about going forward?
This is Reid from ReidAboutSex.com.
And I'm Cathy Bartoli from theintimacydojo.com.
Yeah! Ooh, totally normal.
Yeah?
Yeah. It's a really awesome question. Thank you for sending in questions. We love that. Yeah, I mean, the analogy is for those of you who meditate, you're going to have days when you just drop in, Om Shanti Shanti, you're like meditating away, and you're like a calm lake, deep, cool, quiet. And then all of a sudden you're like, who the fuck's throwing pebbles into my fucking lake? It was so good. What the fuck? God, But for people who meditate, they're like, oh yeah, that's a thing. Like there's probably a name for it in like 8 different languages at least, about how you hit these moments, you're in the flow, and then all of a sudden you're out of the flow. And that's as for my friends who meditate, I don't meditate. They're like, oh yeah, like that's meditation. Like you're in the moment, and then you're out of the moment. And then your job is to just surrender until you're back in the moment. I find that to be very much how sex can be. So in this share, you know, everything feels good, seems like it was all consensual, and then all of a sudden somebody's throwing pebbles into your fucking lake. And you're like, wait a minute, I'm all in my head.
Yeah.
And I think that that's really normal. And then if you just tend to notice it when you start to get good at sex. You notice when you're in your head. And I think that that's a good thing. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like you have arrived. Welcome. What about you?
I definitely have had that experience. And I think because I had a trauma background for a long time, I thought that there was something wrong with me when that happened. Mm-hmm. Like I wasn't really healed. I wasn't doing a good job at the sex. Even if the sex was really amazing. In fact, sometimes when it was really good and I started feeling more excitement, those thoughts would come up faster. And I think that's true for like your meditation analogy. I've had friends that shared the deeper they go into the meditation, sometimes the more, like there's part of our brain that goes, this can't be safe. This is very intense. Let's distract you. You did not take out the trash or pay the electric bill. You are a bad person. Mm-hmm. So I think that it was reassuring to hear that other people felt that way. And I think a lot of times we don't. I love that you asked the question because a lot of us never ask those things. We just think, oh, there's something wrong with me, or it's just me. Yeah. And once we start talking about it, you hear like, oh, you weren't abused, but you had that same experience. Maybe this is just human. Maybe this is like what humans go through. And I think that for people with abuse issues, there's sometimes more fear. Those thoughts may come up more. And
again, I'm not a psychologist or a trauma expert. It wouldn't surprise me if when you really surrender and start to let go, all of us have it like, wait.
This isn't safe.
But because that's kind of normal. Like you're really falling into the moment or being overtaken by the moment or whatever words you want to use. And so sometimes that has your alert brain kind of jump back to awareness.
Yeah. So I love that you asked this question. I think that it's a judgment call often. Like, do I just keep going? Do I talk to my partner? Do I ask for a break? Like, how intense are those thoughts or those fears? Like, are you still able to enjoy things? You're slightly distracted, or would say, hey, just want to let you know this feels amazing. We can keep going, but I'm noticing a lot of fears come up. Yeah. Sometimes just sharing out loud and having someone know, or like, I really, that you could use this. Some people use green, yellow, red.
Yeah, as safe words.
Right. So like green is go ahead. Yellow is like let's slow a little bit, but we keep going. Red is let's stop. Just kind of feel into your body what's going to be helpful for you. You don't want to re-traumatize yourself if you have a trauma background. Yeah. Or even if you don't have, like if you're just feeling some fear. Yeah,
and other things, right? So if you're safe, like air quotes around safe, right? Like you're just in your head.
Yeah.
You're not actually in danger, or you don't think you're in danger. Then what can you do around knowing yourself that gets you back or puts you in the neighborhood of getting back into your flow? For me, I'm very verbal. So I will just share what's going on. We've got videos on what I talk about, my hamster wheel of death, like where I have hamsters running on squeaky hamster wheels in my head. Like that's the voices in my head, me being in my head. And so I just tell people, I'm like, oh, I'm just really in my head right now, noticing everything, and I want to be back in my body. Would you help me? And then I make a request. For me, the way that I know my body, I like pressure. So whatever we're doing, I'll be like, you know, like if I'm receiving a blowjob, I'm like, oh, could you spin around and like sit on me and keep doing your thing? But I need weight. And weight helps me get into my body. And that I voiced what was going on with my hamsters helps me. Yeah. Everyone's different. And you can check out the hamster video to see if that tool works well for you. If it doesn't, it's not that you're broken, it's just not your tool. But what else can work for you? Mm-hmm. For some people, it's hey, let me take a pause. Maybe you're confronted talking to them. It's like, you know what? I need to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. You run into the bathroom, get a moment alone. Look at yourself in the mirror, take a breath, maybe take a pee, and then go back. Maybe that's going to help. It's going to be different for all of us, but after some exploration, you might find those 2 or 3 things that generally work really well for you. Yeah.
And maybe just telling your partners that happens sometimes can help take the pressure off. Because I know that I felt like I wasn't being fully present. I kind of beat myself up for being not there, or not deep into it. And just kind of verbalizing and having that go, okay, just, you know, I just want you to know that sometimes this happens. And I've had a couple like, oh yeah, I have that too.
I've also found in having played with a lot of different people that sometimes we get in our heads right before something really big is going to happen. Yeah. So like for me, like sometimes I have a lot of emotion come up for whatever reason, right? Old past stuff, or I just had a really shitty week, and I just want to cry while I'm getting a blowjob. You're like, whatever that is.
Maybe it's okay.
But like I get into my head because I don't want to let happen what that other thing is kind of coming up, and my brain's like, no, push it down. So I want to offer that as just another thing to take a peek at. Yeah. I don't know if that's been your experience.
Just being able to just like tell someone and like hold space. It depends on the person. I've also worked through I do emotional freedom techniques where you use acupressure points to help the brain talk to different parts of the brain and eliminate some of the old fears. So I've done a lot of work on that too, and that's been really helpful for me with some traumas. So we hope this helps. Thanks so much for the question. I love how vulnerable it is. Leave comments below. Have you ever felt this way?
Yeah, and share this video with somebody.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of people out there wondering if they're okay, and if you share this, it could be a real life changer for them.
Hit subscribe.